Welcome back. You're watching Network Africa on Channels Television. Now, Kenya has come under huge criticism by the United Nations Refugee Agency for the closure of 2 refugee camps. As a result, the UNHCR is asking the Kenyan government to reconsider its decision to close the Dadaab and Kakuma camps. As at last Friday, the Kenyan government explained that it would close both camps, citing security concerns and financial pressures. This is not the first time such an announcement has been made by the Kenyan authorities, but this time might be different in that the authorities might see their decision through. Most of the 600,000 people who reside in the camps are from Somalia and South Sudan. Meanwhile, it has been 4 days since the authorities in the capital, Nairobi, began demolishing buildings considered to be highly unsafe for people to live in. The demolitions began at the city's Huruma district, where a building collapsed 10 days ago, killing more than 40 people. However, the move has been criticized by people who complain they did not have enough time to gather their belongings and get out. Let's talk more about this now. Joining us on Network Africa is lead consultant at Sovereign Insight, Mr. Vincent Kimosop. Vincent, thank you for joining us on Network Africa. Let's begin with the camp closure. Now that the UN is asking authorities to reconsider the closures, do you think the Kenyan authorities will reconsider?
Thanks for having me in the program. I want to say that this is not the first time the Kenyan government is taking this position. And when you look at the communication, the Cabinet Secretary together with the Principal Secretary look resolute in ensuring that this decision goes through. And of course, we've already received criticism from the UN agency and also today non-governmental organizations working in humanitarian work have also called on the Kenyan government to reconsider its decision. I think the main message that the Kenyan government wants to send is that it cannot keep on shouldering this burden alone, that the international community seems not to be committed enough to supporting Kenya. Yes, Kenya suffered in the past, so its generosity. So it remains to be seen, but it's all about resources and strategic interest.
Mr. Kimosop, just as you said, Kenya has been shouldering this alone. So if Kenya decides to take this decision, which is not the first time it has threatened to close these camps, what's the international community intending to do? I mean, how do they intend to protect and provide for these refugees? I mean, shouldn't they also step in and do something now? Is the Kenyan government requesting that they take over these refugees?
I think that if the international community demonstrates commitment through financing, technical support to Kenya, particularly in the fight against terror, and solidarity with Kenya, because as you're aware, actually this month, the Kenyan government released its statistics on economic growth. And among the most affected sectors is tourism. And you know, tourism is security sensitive. And all of this is related to the terror attacks that the country has experienced in the past, which actually intelligence demonstrates some of them were planned in some of the camps. So that's where the issue is. And so if the international community doesn't do anything, then I think this decision will see the day of light.
Vincent, are there discussions about where these refugees can go or what happens to them? What are Kenyans saying? Do they support the government's decision?
First, I think that you know that we have a significant Christian population in the country. So you would actually see that there are people who are saying that, of course, it's part of our values, hospitable and being good neighbors. But because of the past painful terror attacks, you actually see a significant percentage of the population who are saying, yes, we have helped stabilize Somalia. South Sudan looks like it is taking shape, and also tend to be why can't we have voluntary repatriation for those who are willing, so that we can reduce the burden. So there is mixed reactions on the part of the populace, others supporting and others who are saying, yes, we support, but let it be executed in a humane way.
Well, let's take it now to your own location, which is where the building collapse happened. The government has decided to demolish buildings around the area that have been marked as unsafe for people to live in. Occupants are complaining that they were not given enough notice to evacuate. So were they given notice by the government that they would be evacuated from that area and that their buildings will have to be demolished?
There are two parts of it. One is that those who were affected by the building that collapsed, and they were given support and residence through a social hall. And then there are those also who therefore are living in buildings that have been earmarked for demolition because they are not strong and good for human occupation. So a warning was given. The challenge, of course, the issue of availability of cheap space and then or housing units. And then number two is also the challenge of resources. And that's why the county government has even though given people notice, but has also been implementing this slowly and allowing people to find options even as they implement the directive.
Is there some compensation for those who own the buildings?
And why would they be compensated? They did not follow the rules. So, in fact, they actually ought to be held accountable for using materials that actually might actually predispose the people to harm. So there will be no compensation for such.
Vincent, thank you so much for joining us on Network Africa. Well, our hearts are with those who have lost people in that building collapse, and we do hope the government does what is right for the people at the end of the day. Vincent Kimosop from Kenya. A recent spike in the cost of utilities and a government spokesman's seemingly insensitive reaction to the concerns of the public have contributed to a growing sentiment that Côte d'Ivoire's economic growth rate is doing little to lift poor and working class citizens. While there have been no protests so far, the situation is a blemish on the country's image as a standout economy in Africa and has pushed government officials to publicly acknowledge the problem and promise solutions.
President Ouattara, who won a second five-year term with nearly 84% of the vote last year in October, has promised to reduce poverty, promote ethnic and political reconciliation, write a new constitution, and share the benefits of an economic boom more widely, following nearly a decade of crisis that has culminated in a civil war in 2011. This is despite the International Monetary Fund's prediction that Ivory Coast economy will grow by 8.5% this year, down slightly from 8.6% in 2015. While inflation is expected to remain low, the price of basic commodities is set to be on a steady rise.
Almost everything is expensive at the market, although there is plenty in terms of foodstuffs on sale. We have noticed that things are expensive. We come to the market, but we don't know if we'll be able to buy anything. We don't have money to buy things.
As other economies on the continent have crumbled amid a global commodities crash that has sparked capital flight and tanked currency, Ivory Coast has posted GDP growth of around 9% over the past 3 years. But many in the West African nation complain they have been left behind, and the president's critics warn that economic exclusion is undermining efforts to close the book on the years of unrest.
We cannot fight against the high cost of living by taxing people. That can only produce a negative effect. So the government has its role to play. Taxes need to be reviewed and lowered. We pay too many taxes.
President Ouattara rejects criticism that he has not done enough to battle unemployment and improve the standard of living for average Ivorians. He claims 2 million jobs have been created on his watch, and agriculture sector income have increased by 20%. Per capita GDP is also climbing. In a speech on May the 1st, 2016, Ouattara publicly acknowledged the rising cost of living and promised solutions.
Oui, je me suis toujours préoccupé des conditions de vie de tous.
I have always been concerned with the living conditions of all my fellow citizens, whatever political position they may hold. That has always been my main agenda. Increasing consumers' buying power and the fight against the high cost of living are constant worries for many. I have heard your complaints in the face of rising food prices and the rising utility bills.
Ivory Coast will seek to raise about 4.4 trillion francs during a meeting with donor partners, which is due to be held later on this month to help fund an ambitious 5-year development program.
Still ahead on Network Africa. That's right, Egypt has agreed to pay Mexican tourist families for mistaking their loved ones as terrorists. Do join us again.